The galaxy had forgotten humanity. Long ago, humans were defeated, their colonies burned, and their fleets destroyed. The alien empires had laughed and written in their history books that Earth was no more than a dead world, a broken race that would never rise again. For centuries, the galaxy expanded without fear of humans, believing them weak, divided, and gone forever. But in the silence of the dark, humanity was not dead. Humanity was watching, waiting, and building. Deep under, the black skies of hidden planets, inside hollowed moons, and beneath the icy crusts of forgotten worlds, humans prepared in secret. They had not forgiven, and they had not forgotten. The first sign came quietly, unnoticed by most. A trade ship disappeared on the border of the Thalor Empire. No distress call, no signal, only silence. Days later, a patrol squad went to investigate. But only wreckage was found, metal torn apart as if by claws, entire ships shredded into dust. The alien commanders dismissed it as pirates. But whispers spread. Something moved in the dark. Far from the crowded centers of power, in the black edges of space, a fleet was being born. It was not like the fleets of the past. These ships were different, built not for show, not for peace, but for one purpose only: war. They carried scars of old battles within their design. Their armor was layered, thick, unbreakable. Their weapons glowed with a strange energy, a mixture of human ingenuity and stolen alien technology. No one knew how long Earth had been building them. No one knew how humans had gathered so much strength without the galaxy noticing. But now, they were ready. In the great council of alien powers, laughter still filled the air. The words, human threat, were a joke told between diplomats. The Thalor called humans a dead ember. The Vanar said Earth was nothing more than a myth told to frighten children. The Creel boasted that they had erased humanity long ago. None of them saw what was coming. None of them knew that the ember was still burning, hidden under ash, ready to ignite into fire. It began with a shadow. A Thalor scout ship detected movement near a dying star system. Their sensors showed something massive, moving slow, silent. Too big to be a pirate ship. The scout captain grew nervous. He ordered a closer approach. As their ship drew near, they saw it. A shape, enormous and dark, drifting like a predator in the void. It was a human warship, but not like the ones the galaxy remembered. This one was colossal, almost alive in its presence. Its black hull absorbed light, its edges were sharp, and its engines glowed like burning suns. The Thalor captain froze. His crew trembled. They knew no fleet could match something like this. The captain tried to send a warning back to his empire, but his message never arrived. The human warship moved without sound, without mercy. In a single strike of burning light, the scout ship was gone, erased from existence. Silence returned to the dying system. The galaxy remained blind. Only the humans knew what had begun. In hidden command rooms, human officers stood over old star maps. They spoke little, their voices cold, their eyes sharp. Their leader, a man with gray hair and a scar across his face, placed his hand on the map of the galaxy. "They thought we were weak," he said. "They thought we were gone. Now they will learn." Around him, officers nodded. Their faces showed no joy, no celebration, only determination. For them, this was not just war. This was justice. Across the galaxy, life went on as if nothing had changed. Alien worlds bustled with trade, fleets moved across hyperspace, armies fought over borders and resources. But at the edges, something was happening. More ships disappeared. Patrols went silent. Traders told stories of shadows that swallowed fleets whole. The whispers grew louder, and fear began to stir in the hearts of the boldest commanders. But the councils dismissed it. They called it lies, stories spread by smugglers and pirates. They did not see the pattern, they did not want to believe, and then came the second sighting. A Vanar warship, heavily armed, spotted something strange while crossing a nebula. At first they thought it was debris, but then the shape moved, shifting with purpose. Their sensors screamed warnings, but before the crew could react, a voice came through their comms. It was not alien, it was human, calm, steady, and cold. This space belongs to us now. Leave or be destroyed. The Vanar captain laughed. Certain it was a trick, but laughter turned to screams as the human warship revealed itself, firing weapons that tore the Vanar vessel apart in seconds. Only fragments remained, scattered like ashes across the nebula. That night, the galaxy changed, though most still did not know it. Humanity had returned, not as victims, not as prey, but as hunters. The old name of Earth, forgotten and mocked, was beginning to rise again. And in the silence of the dark, alien empires were about to face something they had not known in centuries: fear. The story was only beginning. The galaxy did not yet realize that a battle was coming. A battle that would break them. A battle that would carve the name of humanity into the stars forever. But the first shadow had already moved, the first fire had already burned, and the silence before the storm had already ended. In the darkness, a single human broadcast moved through hidden channels, slipping past alien sensors. It was simple, short, and chilling. The voice said only this: "We are back." Rumors are like fire. They start small, with a spark, and soon they spread across the stars, too fast to control. That is how it began. Traders whispered of human ships that came out of nowhere. Smugglers told stories of fleets burned to dust by dark shadows. Captains of patrols spoke of voices on the comm, voices speaking in old human tongue. Most of the galaxy did not believe them. The great councils laughed. They called it fear, lies, the imagination of cowards. But in the far edges of space, where whispers are stronger than laws, fear began to grow. The Thaler Empire was the first to feel it. In their border colonies, silence spread like a disease. Outposts failed to report. Mining stations vanished. Entire convoys went missing between one star and the next. At first, commanders blamed pirates, then rebellion, then mechanical failure. But the truth was different. The truth was human. Somewhere in the void, hidden among the shadows of dead stars, humanity was moving. Humanity was hunting. One alien merchant, old and scarred, told a story in a crowded bar on the trade world of Karun. He claimed his ship had seen it with his own eyes. He spoke of a colossal warship, black as night, drifting near a gas giant. It had no insignia, no code, no signal, only silence. It was like the void itself had teeth, he said, his voice shaking. No one wanted to believe him. But no one laughed either. They only listened in silence, their drinks untouched. Because somewhere deep inside, even the bravest aliens felt the truth. The galaxy was blind, but the signs were everywhere. Wreckage of fleets discovered in forgotten systems. Survivors whispering about human voices before death. Strange energy. Signatures that no empire could explain. And yet, in the shining halls of power, leaders dismissed it. Humans are weak, they said. They are extinct, they said. The great Vanar Council even mocked the rumors openly. One counselor stood before his people and declared, "If the humans dare return, we will erase them again, faster than before." His words brought cheers in the chamber, but outside, in the streets, fear still grew. Not everyone dismissed the threat. Among the Creel military, there were old veterans who remembered. They had fought humans centuries ago. They had seen human fleets charge with fire in their eyes, refusing to surrender, even in defeat. These old soldiers warned their leaders. but no one listened. The galaxy had grown arrogant. It believed too much in its own power. It had forgotten that humanity was not like other races. Humanity did not bend. Humanity did not forget. Humanity learned, adapted, and returned stronger. The first official report came from the Outer Rim. A Creel scout fleet of 10 ships had gone silent. When reinforcements arrived weeks later, they found only wreckage. Not the clean wreckage of battle, but torn metal and shattered hulls, as if the ships had been ripped apart by some unstoppable force. Strange marks were carved into the wreckage. They looked like symbols. Some said they were old human war banners. Others said they were warnings. But none of the surviving aliens could explain them. In the back alleys of alien worlds, whispers turned into stories, and stories turned into fear. Children played games where they pretended to hide from human soldiers. Traitors carried charms against human curses. Even soldiers began to mutter among themselves. They called the humans ghosts of war. The more the councils denied, the more the fear grew. Fear does not need proof. Fear only needs whispers. Meanwhile, far away, hidden behind thick walls of silence, humanity watched. In a command center, deep beneath the ice of a nameless moon, human leaders listened to intercepted alien broadcasts. They saw how their whispers were spreading. They saw the fear growing. And they waited. They did not rush. They did not reveal themselves. They let the fear spread by itself, like poison in the veins of the galaxy. One officer smiled coldly and said, "Fear is the first weapon. Let them fear us before they see us." But the galaxy is not patient. The Valor, proud and arrogant, decided to act. They sent a fleet of 30 ships to the region where most disappearances were reported. The Valor commander, bold and loud, promised to drag human survivors back in chains if he found them. His fleet entered the void, shining bright with arrogance. Days passed, then weeks. No signal returned. Only silence. Then, one night, across the stars, a signal broke through. It was faint, broken, and filled with static, but it carried words that chilled everyone who heard them. A Valor officer's last message: "They are here. They are everywhere. We cannot fight them. Run!" The signal cut off. Nothing else was heard. Still, the councils refused to accept it. They said it was a hoax, a trick, a false transmission. But their people did not believe them. The people had already seen enough. They had seen the wreckage, heard the stories, and felt the silence. Whispers had turned into dread. Dread was turning into truth. The galaxy was changing. Slowly, quietly. Without battles or invasions, humanity was breaking the galaxy's courage. Before the first great clash, before the first full war, the galaxy was already bleeding inside. And in the shadows, humanity prepared its next move. The time for whispers would end. The time for fire was coming. At the edge of a forgotten system, the colossal human warship drifted once more. Its black hull gleamed faintly in the starlight. Inside, human officers stood ready. They spoke no words of mercy. They carried no banners of peace. Their leader gave a simple order: "Spread the fear further. Let them know we are coming." Engines roared to life, and the warship vanished into hyperspace, leaving only silence behind. The galaxy had not yet seen the full strength of humanity. But already, the whispers were strong enough to shake empires. Already, rulers woke in the night, hearing a voice in their dreams. The same voice that survivors had heard in the dark. Calm, cold, and human. "We are back." The galaxy was still laughing when the first true strike came. The councils mocked the rumors, the empires ignored the warnings, and the merchants pretended everything was safe. But far away, beyond the reach of their arrogance, humanity chose its first target. It was not random. It was not a small outpost or a weak world. Humanity wanted the galaxy to see. Humanity wanted the galaxy to fear, and so they chose the pride of the Thaler Empire, the jewel of their colonies, a city world called Arixa. It was filled with lights, towers, fleets, and millions of citizens. It was a symbol of power, wealth, and arrogance. To humanity, it was the perfect place to send a message. Arixa had never known fear. Its skies were always full of patrols, its defenses thick and unbreakable. The Thaler were proud of it. They believed no enemy could ever touch their jewel. That night, the jewel cracked. In the silence of space, the colossal human warship arrived. It did not announce itself, it did not send threats, it did not open communication. It appeared like a shadow cutting across the stars, silent and black. The planetary defense grid detected it too late. The alarms screamed across Arixa. Fleets scrambled, soldiers rushed, and commanders shouted orders. But none of it mattered. The first strike of humanity was merciless. With a single blast of burning energy, the warship erased the Thaler orbital defenses. The ring of satellites that had protected Arixa for centuries fell in fire within seconds. The Thaler fleet rushed forward, hundreds of ships, shining with courage and fear. They fired everything they had, lasers, missiles, plasma fire. But the human warship did not fall. Its armor drank the fire. Its shields bent, but did not break. And then, with the silence of judgment, it answered. One beam. Just one. The beam cut through the Thaler fleet like a knife through paper. Entire squadrons vanished, ships burning, exploding, turning into wreckage that rained down into Arixa's skies. Panic spread across the world. Citizens screamed as fire lit the horizon. Towers shook as debris fell from the heavens. The government broadcast messages of courage, telling the people to stay calm, telling them the defenses were strong. But the truth was clear. The defenses were gone. The fleets were broken. And the human warship was not finished. It descended, slowly, like a predator watching prey. On the ground, soldiers raised weapons, tanks rolled, airships launched. But when the warship fired again, the entire capital city was erased. Millions died in silence. The jewel of the Thaler cracked into dust. The galaxy did not laugh anymore. News spread faster than light. Survivors who escaped Arixa carried the story. They spoke of a single human ship destroying a world that had been untouchable. They spoke of a darkness that moved like death. They spoke of a voice that came through every comm system just before the attack ended. Calm, cold, and human. The voice said, "This is only the beginning." Those words echoed across the galaxy. The councils gathered in panic. No one laughed this time. The Venar demanded war. The Creel shouted for unity. The Thaler, broken and humiliated, called for vengeance. But none of them had answers. They asked how a race they believed destroyed had returned with such power. They asked how humans built such ships in secret. They asked where the fleets were hiding. No one knew. The only truth was this: humanity had returned, and they were not hiding anymore. Fear spread deeper now. Children whispered it in the streets. Soldiers muttered it in their barracks. Merchants carried it in their ships. The humans were back, and they were not weak. They were hunters, and the galaxy was prey. Every empire tried to calm their people, but fear does not obey orders. Fear grew in silence, in shadows, in dreams. Entire colonies refused to work, terrified that the humans would strike next. Armies hesitated, unsure if their fleets could stand against the dark warship. In secret rooms, alien leaders made plans. They decided to combine their forces, to build a grand alliance, to crush humanity before it was too late. But deep inside, they doubted. If one human ship could erase a world, what would happen if more came? What would happen if humanity still had armies, still had fleets, still had weapons they had not yet shown? The question burned inside them. It gave them no rest. and that was exactly what humanity wanted. Far away, inside the human warship, officers watched the chaos unfold. They monitored alien broadcasts, listened to the panic, studied the fear. Their leader stood at the center, silent for a long time, his scarred face lit by the glow of battle maps. Finally, he spoke. "They know now," he said, "but they still do not understand. Let them gather their fleets. Let them believe they can fight us. When they are ready, we will break them all." His voice was steady, sharp, unshaken. Around him, the officers nodded. Humanity had made the first strike. The war had begun. Across the galaxy, silence followed. The destruction of Arixa. No empire dared to move too quickly. No world felt safe. The shadow of humanity stretched over every system, even those untouched. The Thalor mourned their jewel. The Venar sharpened their swords. The Creel prepared their soldiers. But all of them, deep inside, carried the same thought. If the humans could destroy one jewel, they could destroy all. And somewhere in the dark, where the stars burned faint and lonely, 1,000 more human ships waited, silent, patient, ready. The first strike was done. The next would come soon. The galaxy had no idea how close the storm truly was. The destruction of Arixa shook the galaxy like thunder. No one laughed now. No one called it rumor or lies. Every empire had seen the truth, and the truth was terrifying. A single human warship had destroyed the jewel of the Thalor Empire, had erased fleets, had burned cities, had spoken with cold human voice. This is only the beginning. The galaxy understood now that the whispers were not just stories. Humanity had returned, and their return was painted in fire. The Great Council called an emergency meeting. Leaders of the Thalor, Venar, Creel, and other empires gathered in the shining station of Vera Prime. Their faces were hard, their voices sharp, and fear burned behind their eyes. For centuries, these empires had fought each other, argued, betrayed, and competed for power. Now they were told they must unite against a common enemy. But unity is not easy for those who have only known rivalry. The council chamber filled with anger. The Thalor screamed for vengeance. Their leader slammed his clawed hand against the table and shouted that humanity must be hunted and erased from the galaxy forever. The Venar sneered and replied that the Thalor had brought this on themselves with arrogance. The Creel general growled that words would not stop human fire, only soldiers and fleets could. Voices clashed, fists slammed, insults flew. The council was breaking apart. The truth was that none of them trusted each other. Old wounds still bled between empires. The Venar remembered Creel invasions. The Creel remembered Thalor betrayals. The Thalor remembered Venar lies, and deep inside each of them thought the same thing. If the humans destroy my rival first, maybe it will be better for me. Their fear of humans was strong, but their hate for each other was stronger. Outside the chamber, their people felt the same confusion. On alien streets, crowds gathered, demanding answers. Soldiers marched nervously, unsure if they would be ordered to fight humans or other empires. Traders hid their ships, afraid to cross borders. Colonies closed their ports, fearful of the black human warships that might appear from nowhere. The galaxy was cracking not only from human strikes, but from its own weakness. Far away, hidden in darkness, humans watched. They had spies, listening to the council, reading their words, studying their fear. Inside the human warship, officers smiled as they heard the council shouting and breaking apart. The leader, the man with the scar across his face, spoke softly. They cannot unite. Their pride will kill them before we do. He knew that fear does not always bring strength. Fear often brings division, and division was the sharpest weapon of all. In the council, arguments grew worse. The Thalor demanded immediate combined fleets. The Vanar refused, saying they would not send their ships under Thalor command. The Creel shouted they would not waste soldiers defending Vanar space. Smaller empires screamed that they would not sacrifice worlds for powers that had never cared for them. The chamber was chaos. What was supposed to be the start of unity became the stage of broken alliances. The humans did not wait. While the council argued, another strike came. This time it was a Creel mining colony, rich with resources, guarded by strong fleets. In the middle of the night, the sky tore open. Human ships emerged like shadows, striking fast, burning fleets, leveling defenses. Within hours, the colony was silent. Survivors fled, carrying one message: the humans were everywhere. News of the Creel loss reached the council. The chamber exploded again. The Creel accused the Vanar of betrayal, saying they must have secretly helped the humans. The Vanar accused the Thalor of leaking roots. The smaller empires accused everyone. No one trusted anyone. No one listened. The humans had struck again, and instead of uniting, the galaxy blamed itself. On the ground, fear spread deeper. Entire planets refused to send their fleets, saying it was hopeless. Soldiers deserted, saying they would not fight shadows. Citizens whispered at night that the humans could not be stopped. In some colonies, there were even those who secretly cheered. They remembered old history, the times when humans fought for freedom, when humans were betrayed by the council. To them, the return of Earth was not terror, but justice, and these whispers of support only made the empires more paranoid. The galaxy was falling apart from within. Alliances crumbled. Trust vanished. The humans had struck only twice, yet the fear of them had already broken the unity of the galaxy. In secret, the human leader watched the maps. He saw the cracks forming between empires, the weak points, the fractures. He turned to his officers and said, "We do not need to break their fleets. We only need to break their trust. The rest will collapse by itself." The council tried one last time. They forced a vote for unity. But when the results came, half of the empires refused. Some said they would defend only their borders. Others said they would fight humans alone. Some even considered secret deals with Earth, hoping to survive while rivals burned. The Great Council, the symbol of galactic power, fell into silence. Broken, divided, useless. Humanity had not only returned with fire, they had returned with strategy. That night, the human warship drifted at the edge of another system. Its engines were silent, its weapons asleep, but inside its crew knew that the galaxy was already bleeding without another shot. The leader looked out at the stars and whispered, "The first strike was fire. The second strike is fear. The third strike will be the end of their unity." His words were carried in silence, but the galaxy would soon feel them as truth. Alliances were broken. The councils were in ruins. And in the shadows, humanity prepared for the next move. The galaxy thought the storm was coming, but they did not realize the storm had already begun. Whispers of fear had already torn the galaxy apart. But now a new word spread among the stars, darker than all the rest. It was not just human anymore. It was not just warship or revenge. The new word was the dread machine. No one knew exactly what it was, but every survivor spoke of it with trembling voices. Some said it was a ship bigger than a moon. Others said it was a machine that ate planets. A few whispered that it was not a ship at all, but a living weapon, a monster built by human hands. Whatever the truth was, the fear of the dread machine grew faster than any fleet could travel. The first rumors came from the Creel border. A convoy of supply ships had gone missing. When search parties arrived, they found wreckage floating in silence. But the wreckage was strange. The metal was melted, twisted into shapes no weapon in the galaxy could make. The crews were gone, their bodies never found. The survivors swore they had seen something move in the darkness. A shadow larger than any ship, its engines glowing red like eyes. They said it did not fire like normal ships. It swallowed light, bent space, and destroyed with a single pulse. No one wanted to believe, but everyone feared it. In the alien council chambers, the words "dread machine" echoed again and again. The Thalor accused the Creel of spreading lies to hide their own weakness. The Vanar shouted that humans could not have built such a weapon without help. Some smaller empires screamed that the dread machine was real, that they must surrender before it was too late. Once again, the council broke into chaos, each voice louder, each leader more desperate. The humans had not fired a single shot in weeks, yet the galaxy was tearing itself apart. Meanwhile, deep in the cold void, the truth drifted silently. The dread machine was real. It was not just a rumor, not just a story. Humanity had built it, in secret, hidden under the shadow of a dead star. It was colossal, larger than any warship in history, a black leviathan of steel and fire. Its armor was thicker than mountains, its weapons older than vengeance itself, mixed with stolen alien technology and human genius. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. And the most terrifying thing was not its size, not its weapons, not its engines. The most terrifying thing was its silence. It did not move with noise. It did not speak. It drifted like a predator, waiting to strike, and wherever it went, only wreckage remained. Inside the dread machine, human officers worked with calm focus. Their faces were hard, their voices sharp. To them, this was not just a ship. It was a symbol, a reminder to the galaxy that Earth had not been destroyed, only waiting. They called it the Heart of Vengeance, the weapon that would not only fight battles, but break the courage of empires. Their leader, scarred and steady, stood on the command deck and looked out through the black glass at the stars. "They will know our name," he said softly. "Not as prey, not as forgotten. They will know us as Dread," the first true sighting of the Dread machine came near the Vanar border. A fleet of 50 Vanar ships patrolled the region, confident in their strength. Their commander was proud, certain he could destroy anything the humans sent. But then the shadows moved. The dread machine emerged slowly from the darkness. It was larger than their entire fleet combined, its black hull stretching across there. Sensors, its engines glowing like fire in the void. The Vanar commander froze. For a moment, none of the ships moved. Then panic broke. They fired everything at once, missiles, lasers, plasma, all striking the black leviathan, but nothing happened. The dread machine did not move, did not break, did not even flinch. Then, with a soundless burst of energy, it answered. The Vanar fleet was gone in seconds. 50 ships erased as if they had never existed. The nebula glowed red from the destruction. Survivors in escape pods floated, staring in silence at the shadow drifting away. None of them dared to speak until the dread machine was gone. When they were rescued, their voices shook as they told the story. "It was not a ship," one survivor whispered. "It was death itself." The galaxy screamed when the news spread. The council could no longer deny it. The dread machine was real. Fleets began to pull back. Colonies refused to fight. Commanders resigned. No one wanted to face the Leviathan. Fear became terror, and terror became surrender. Some worlds even broadcast messages into space, begging humanity for mercy, swearing loyalty to Earth if only the dread machine would pass them by. The humans listened. Some messages they ignored, some they answered. But their answers were always the same, carried by that same calm voice. "This is only the beginning." Those words spread like poison. Across the galaxy, citizens whispered them in the dark. Soldiers dreamed of them in their sleep. Leaders trembled when they heard them. Humanity was no longer just an enemy. Humanity had become dread itself. Inside, the dread machine, the human leader studied the maps of the galaxy. He saw the fear spreading, the broken alliances, the trembling empires. He knew the galaxy would not fight together. He knew the councils were collapsing. He turned to his officers and said, "We do not need to destroy every fleet. We only need to destroy their hope. Once hope dies, the galaxy is ours." His words were simple, but they carried the weight of truth. The officers nodded. They understood. This was not just war. This was the end of resistance. And so, the dread machine moved again. Silent, patient, merciless. Every time it appeared, a world burned, a fleet vanished, a people fell into silence. And every time it disappeared, its legend grew larger. The galaxy had never seen such a weapon, and now it lived in their nightmares. Children whispered its name before sleep. Soldiers swore they heard its engines even when no ship was near. Leaders woke in the night, their hands shaking, their dreams filled with shadows. The dread machine had become more than a ship. It had become the face of humanity's vengeance. It had become the proof that Earth was no longer a forgotten ember, but a fire that could not be stopped. And as it drifted into the dark once more, the galaxy understood one truth too late. Humanity had not only returned with ships and soldiers, humanity had returned with dread, and dread was the sharpest weapon of all. The galaxy had thought itself unbreakable. For centuries, the great empires ruled with pride, their fleets strong, their armies countless, their councils filled with arrogance. They believed no enemy could challenge them, no outsider could make them fall. But that belief was gone now. The dread machine had ended it. Whole fleets had been destroyed in moments. Colonies had burned without resistance. The council chambers were empty, leaders too afraid to gather. The empires that once ruled the stars now trembled like prey. They were not rulers anymore. They were the hunted. The first empire to shatter was the Creel Dominion. Once their fleets had stretched across 500 systems. They had been proud, always speaking of honor and strength. But when the dread machine came, honor vanished. One Creel world after another fell without a fight. Some planets opened, their gates the moment they saw the black Leviathan appear in orbit. Others tried to resist, but their fleets were erased in seconds. Creel commanders abandoned their posts, soldiers threw down their weapons, and civilians begged for mercy. The mighty Dominion collapsed like a dying star, broken not only by human firepower, but by fear that spread faster than war. The Vanar were next. They had mocked the warnings at first. They had called the humans weak, foolish, desperate. But the Vanar Navy met the dread machine and was erased. Their commanders screamed into broken comms. Their fleets turned to fire. Survivors fled into the void, not to regroup, but to hide. The Vanar Empire that once ruled with cold precision fell apart. Provinces declared independence, generals turned on each other, and the once mighty order became chaos. Their citizens whispered in the night, asking why their rulers had lied, why they had promised safety when no safety was left. Across the stars, other empires broke as well. Some collapsed quickly, surrendering at the first sight of humanity's shadow. Others tried to fight, but soon fell to despair. The Thalor Republic turned inward, cutting ties with allies, sealing their borders, trying to protect themselves from the fate they knew was coming. The Morthak clans fractured, each clan fleeing to its own corner of space, abandoning unity in fear of human vengeance. What had once been a galaxy of strong empires was now nothing but broken pieces, shattered by the weight of dread. On one world after another, civilians gathered in fear. They listened to the broadcasts, the warnings, the rumors. They knew the humans were coming, and they knew nothing could stop them. Whole cities rioted, demanding surrender before it was too late. Others fell silent, waiting for the shadow to appear above their skies. No one believed in victory anymore. Even children spoke of the dread machine as if it was a monster from old stories, a creature that could not be killed. Fear had turned into legend, and legend was more powerful than any weapon. Inside the human command chambers, the leaders of Earth watched this collapse with cold eyes. Their maps glowed with broken borders, shattered lines, and failed empires. Every day brought new reports of surrender, of rebellion, of chaos. Humanity had not needed to destroy every fleet. The galaxy was destroying itself. The human commander stood before the screens, his voice calm. "They wanted us forgotten," he said. "Now they will never forget. They wanted us weak. Now they are weaker than ever. Let the galaxy break. When they are nothing but ruins, we will rise." But not all resistance was gone. Some worlds still dreamed of fighting back. Some generals still clung to pride. They gathered secret councils, whispering plans of a final alliance, a last stand against humanity. But even they were broken inside. Their voices shook, their eyes darted, their plans filled with fear. They knew the truth. Even if they gathered every fleet, even if they fought with all their strength, the dread machine was waiting, and the dread machine had no fear, no weakness, no mercy. When one empire fell, another followed. The galaxy became a chain of collapse, each fall pushing the next. Systems that had once stood proud now begged for protection. Colonies that had once mocked Earth now swore loyalty to humanity in desperation. The old order was gone. The balance of power was shattered. And through the ruins, humanity walked with steady steps, each move silent but certain. The galaxy began to call this time by a new name. Not the Age of Empires, not the Age of Unity. It became known as the Age of Dread. Stories spread faster than ships, and each story made the shadow darker. Soldiers spoke of seeing the dread machine drift past their fleets, untouched by fire. Civilians swore they heard its engines in the night sky even when no ships were near. Leaders dreamed of it, their sleep filled with visions of burning worlds. No one trusted anyone. No one believed in safety. Fear itself had become the weapon. That destroyed them. On Earth, the people watched as the galaxy fell. They remembered the years of humiliation, the years of silence, the years of being ignored. Now those years were gone, and the universe that had once scorned them was paying the price. Families who had lost everything in the old wars felt a cold satisfaction as reports of surrender came in. Scientists who had built the dread machine looked at their creation with grim pride. Soldiers who had once fought hopeless battles now stood tall, knowing they carried the name that terrified the stars. Humanity was no longer a victim. Humanity was the shadow that broke the galaxy. But even as the galaxy shattered, whispers grew of something deeper. The empires had broken, yes, but their hatred had not died. In the ruins of fallen worlds, leaders still whispered of revenge. Broken fleets still tried to regroup in secret. Old enemies looked at each other and wondered if unity was possible one last time. They were broken, but not gone. And deep in the dark, while the humans celebrated their rise, the galaxy began to ask one question again and again. Could dread alone hold forever? Or would the shattered empires rise once more to fight the humans in a war even greater than before? The stars had become silent, but silence was never safe. And in that silence, humanity waited, the dread machine drifting through the dark, its engines glowing like fire, its shadow stretching across the galaxy. The Empire of Dread had been born, but the galaxy was not done. Something was coming, something hidden in the ruins. The shattered empires were broken, but they were not yet finished. And when they rose again, the war would become something far more terrible. The galaxy was broken, yet not silent. Fear had crushed empires. Dread had burned fleets, and whole civilizations had fallen into chaos. But in the darkness, some voices still whispered of hope. They were small voices, weak and desperate, but they refused to die. Among the ruins of shattered alliances and empty thrones, a few leaders still dreamed of rising again. They knew they could not win alone. They had seen the dread machine destroy mighty fleets in seconds. They had watched empires collapse like glass under a hammer. Yet deep in their hearts they believed that if the scattered remains of the galaxy united, they might stand a chance. It was the last whisper of resistance, fragile but dangerous. It began on a hidden station in the ashes of the Valor Republic. Once it had been a trade hub, filled with merchants and travelers. Now it was nothing but broken docks and secret chambers. Here, cloaked ships arrived one by one, carrying those who still dared to fight. They came from the Valor, the Creel, the Thalor, and even smaller empires that no longer had names. They sat around a cracked table, their faces pale, their voices heavy. None trusted the others, none wanted to bow to old rivals. But they had no choice. Humanity was stronger than all of them, and alone they would die. Together they might survive. The first to speak was General Corrin of the Creel, his armor scarred, his eyes cold. We cannot let the humans rule the stars. If we do nothing, there will be no future for us, no future for our children. We must form an alliance, the last alliance. We must strike before their shadow covers everything. His words echoed, but the others shifted in silence. They had heard speeches before, from leaders who had already fallen. They were tired of promises. They wanted something real. Then spoke Solara of the Valor, her voice sharp, her gaze filled with anger. Do you not see? This is not just war. This is extermination. They want us broken. They want us to live in fear forever. If we do not rise now, there will be nothing left but slaves. Do you want to see your people kneel before Earth? Do you want your worlds to whisper only in terror of the dread machine? The room grew tense. Some nodded, others clenched their fists, but still, fear hung in the air. At last, an old Thaler admiral named Rin spoke slowly. His voice was weary but steady. We cannot match their machine. No fleet, no weapon can. We have seen it. We know it. But the humans are not gods. They are flesh and blood. Their ship is strong, but it is still a ship. If it can be built, it can be destroyed. We need knowledge. We need spies. We need to strike where they do not expect. His words gave the others pause. For the first time, there was silence, not of despair, but of thought. Maybe he was right. Maybe there was still a way, and so the last whisper of resistance took form. They began to plan, to gather what little they had left. Fleets that had hidden in dark sectors were called forth. Old shipyards that had been abandoned were restarted in secret. Scientists worked in caves and ruins, desperate to build something that might stand against human firepower. They spoke of creating weapons that could pierce the dread machine's armor, of finding weaknesses in its systems, of striking not with pride but with desperation. They had no illusions of glory. They only wanted survival. But even as they gathered, fear stalked them. Every ship that traveled risked being seen. Every message risked being heard. And in the shadows, humans were watching. The dread machine drifted through the void, silent, patient, always near. Its sensors reached across systems, its presence haunting. Every rumor of resistance was tracked, every whisper noted. Humanity knew something was stirring, and they were ready. Yet the alliance grew. Small worlds, forgotten by their broken empires, pledged loyalty to the cause. Refugees who had lost everything volunteered as soldiers. Even pirates and mercenaries joined, for they too feared the humans more than they feared each other. For the first time since the war began, the galaxy's survivors felt a spark of unity. They were weak, yes, But together they were something more. A whisper had become a murmur, and a murmur could grow into a storm. But unity was fragile. Old wounds ran deep. The Creel and the Venar distrusted each other. The Thalor accused the others of cowardice. Meetings turned into arguments, and sometimes into fights. More than once, it seemed the alliance would collapse before it even began. Yet the thought of the dread machine kept them together. Every time they wavered, they remembered the shadow, the burning fleets, the silent destruction. Fear held them together where trust could not. Meanwhile, on Earth, human commanders watched the growing whispers with careful eyes. Reports came in from spies, from drones, from intercepted signals. The galaxy was stirring, yes, but not strong enough. One commander said calmly, "Let them gather. Let them think they have hope. Hope is the sweetest bait. When they rise, we will strike, and when they fall, there will be nothing left but ashes." The room fell silent, for they knew the plan was cruel but certain. Humanity did not just want victory. Humanity wanted finality. Back in the hidden station, the Alliance leaders continued their fragile work. They named themselves the Last Council, a name both proud and desperate. They sent messages to every corner of the broken galaxy, calling for ships, for weapons, for courage. Some answered, many did not, but still, the Council grew. For the first time since the war began, there was a glimmer of resistance, a light in the darkness. And yet, even as they dreamed of striking back, doubt haunted them. Could they truly face the humans? Could they truly destroy the dread machine? Or were they only gathering to die together instead of alone? They did not know, but still they moved forward, because doing nothing meant certain death. The last whisper of resistance had begun. Across the stars, broken fleets stirred, hidden armies marched, and secret weapons were forged. The galaxy was preparing for one final stand, and far away, in the silence of the void, the dread machine drifted, waiting, with cold patience, as if it already knew that their whispers would soon turn into screams. The last council had gathered its strength, but in the darkness not every voice was loyal. Whispers of resistance had grown, fleets were being rebuilt, and the galaxy dared to dream again, yet shadows had already slipped into their ranks. Humanity knew of their alliance, and humanity did not fight with only ships and guns. They fought with fear, with spies, with lies that broke trust. And in a council already torn by suspicion, betrayal was inevitable. It began quietly, almost too quietly. To notice, a shipment of weapons meant for the Creel vanished on its way through a dead system. The escorts swore they never saw attackers, no jump signatures, no trace of enemy fire. One moment the transport was there, the next it was gone. The Creel accused the Venar of sabotage, the Venar accused the Thalor, and the council chamber turned to shouts and threats. Only Admiral Rin calmed them, warning that this was exactly what the humans wanted. His words soothed them for the moment, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Days later, another disaster struck. A hidden shipyard on the edge of a gas giant exploded in fire. Thousands of workers, soldiers, and engineers were lost. The council claimed it was an accident, but in secret, they whispered of betrayal. Someone had given away the location. Someone inside their alliance had spoken to the enemy. The council grew silent after that, their meetings colder, their trust thinner. They spoke of unity, but behind closed doors they spied on each other. And in the dark, human agents smiled. For Earth had already seen the weakness of their enemies. They knew the galaxy was proud, divided, and desperate. They did not need to destroy this new alliance with battle. They only needed to let it destroy itself. Small fleets of cloaked drones were released across the stars, striking in secret, making it seem as if one ally had turned against another. Messages were forged, transmissions altered, orders twisted. Slowly but surely, doubt spread like poison. Among the council, General Corin of the Creel grew louder, his speeches filled with fury. "We cannot trust the Vanar," he shouted. "They will betray us the moment humans offer them safety. We should strike them first, before they strike us." Solara of the Vanar responded with equal rage. "The Creel are the ones who crave power. They would sell us all to Earth if it meant saving their own pride." Each meeting grew sharper, and each time Admiral Rin tried to keep them together, but even he began to feel the strain. He was old, tired, and the weight of betrayal pressed on his heart. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the station, a true traitor moved. No one knew his name, no one even suspected him, for he was skilled at wearing masks. Sometimes he appeared as a Creel soldier, sometimes as a Thaler officer, sometimes as a Vanar technician. He passed codes to human agents, fed false reports to the Council, and carefully made sure that the Alliance turned its eyes inward instead of outward. He did not betray for gold, nor for survival. He betrayed because he had already given up. He believed humanity could not be defeated, and he thought joining them was the only path left. In his heart, he whispered to himself that he was saving his people by serving Earth, though deep down he knew he was only ensuring their doom. The last council did not know of him, but they felt the damage he caused. Plans failed. Fleets arrived. Too late, supplies disappeared. Every step forward was followed by a stumble back. Some began to whisper that perhaps it was hopeless, that perhaps resistance was nothing more than a dream. And that was exactly what the humans wanted. Far across the void, the dread machine drifted silently. Its commanders watched every piece of information their spy provided. They studied the Council's moves, their quarrels, their fears. One human officer laughed softly as she read the reports. "They think they are preparing for war," she said coldly. "They are preparing for their own destruction." The others agreed. Earth would not rush. Earth would wait. When the galaxy was at its most divided, at its most desperate, then the dread machine would move, and the resistance would end in fire. Yet despite the shadows, some still held hope. Small victories were won. A human patrol was ambushed and destroyed. A weapons cache was seized. For a brief moment, the Alliance felt the spark of courage again. They spoke of greater battles, of striking deep into human territory. But behind every smile, suspicion lurked. Who among them was leaking secrets? Who was betraying them? No one knew, but all suspected. The traitor's shadow grew heavier with every passing day. Then came the moment that nearly broke them. A Creel fleet, commanded by General Corin himself, was ambushed in deep space. Dozens of ships were destroyed, thousands of lives lost. The survivors swore they had been betrayed, that their coordinates had been given to the humans. Corin returned to the Council in fury, demanding blood. "It was the Vanar!" he roared. "Only they had access to our path. They are the traitors! We should strike them down before we all perish!" The chamber erupted in chaos. Weapons were drawn. Soldiers nearly fired upon each other. Only Admiral Rin's booming voice stopped them. "If we kill each other, the humans will not need to lift a finger," he thundered. His words shook the room into silence, but silence did not heal trust. The Alliance was crumbling, held together by fear more than unity. Yet even in this storm, Solara of the Vanar remained defiant. "We cannot stop now," she said firmly. "If we give up, we are already dead. Betrayal or not, we must move forward. The humans think us weak. We must prove them wrong." Some listened, some doubted, but her words lit a small flame. The Alliance would hold, at least for now. But in the shadows, the traitor smiled. He had done his work well. The last council was alive, but wounded. Their fleets were gathering, but fragile. Their trust was broken. And in that weakness, Earth would strike. The galaxy did not know it, but its last hope was already bleeding from within. And far away, the dread machine stirred, preparing to unleash fire once more. The galaxy had reached its breaking point. The last council still stood, but its unity was thin as paper, stretched and torn by betrayal, suspicion, and fear. Yet despite the shadows, they could no longer wait. Humanity's power was growing, stronger every day, the dread machine drifting closer like a predator circling its prey. They had one choice left, to fight with everything they had, no matter the cost. And so, the order was given. Across the galaxy, hidden fleets powered their engines, shipyards emptied, armies marched, and for the first time in many generations, the stars trembled with the sound of war. It began with a spark, in the ruins of an old station near a dying sun. A human patrol fleet was ambushed. The Creel launched first, their massive warships ripping through the void with burning plasma. The Vanar followed, their sleek vessels darting like blades, striking hard and vanishing before the humans could react. The Thalor released swarms of drones, thousands of small machines tearing into human shields. For a moment, just a moment, the humans faltered. The ambush was perfect, their ships torn apart one by one, their formation collapsing. The survivors fled, their screams echoing across comms before silence claimed them. For the first time since the war began, the galaxy had struck a true blow. The news spread like fire. On dozens of worlds, beings raised their voices in hope. The last council declared their first victory, and banners of resistance were raised across the stars. But Earth did not answer with silence. The dread machine stirred, its great engines burned, its weapons hummed, and humanity unleashed their fury. Fleet after fleet poured from the shadows, not random patrols this time, but full armadas. Where the Council had struck a single patrol, Earth answered with storms of iron, entire systems lit up with war. The sky itself seemed to burn as thousands of human ships descended, their guns tearing worlds apart. Colonies were erased in hours, resistance bases crushed beneath orbital bombardment. Where the Council had celebrated, they now screamed in terror. Admiral Rin watched from the bridge of his flagship as reports flooded in, worlds falling, fleets shattered, allies begging for aid that could not come. His voice was steady, but his heart was heavy. "This is the fire we unleashed," he whispered. Solara of the Vanar stood beside him, her eyes cold but unbroken. "Better to burn in battle than rot in fear," she answered. Yet even her courage could not hide the truth. Humanity's response was overwhelming, precise, and merciless. It was as if the humans had been waiting for this, as if they had wanted the Council to strike first, only so they could crush them harder in return. In the chaos, the traitors' work continued. Messages were altered, fleets misdirected. A Creel battle group arrived late to a critical fight, only to find their allies already destroyed. They accused the Thalor of betrayal, the Thalor accused the Vanar, and again suspicion poisoned the alliance. But there was no time for arguments now, because the humans were everywhere. Battles raged in every corner of the galaxy. Some were small, desperate skirmishes fought by hidden cells. Others were vast clashes where thousands of ships turned the void into a graveyard. Again and again, humanity's strength showed itself. Their ships were not only powerful but efficient, their weapons cutting through shields like paper, their tactics ruthless and precise. But the Council fought on. In one battle near the shattered moon of Kethar, Admiral Rin himself led the charge. His fleet of mixed vessels, Creel warships, Vanar strikers, and Thalor drones clashed against a human armada twice their size. The void burned with fire, ships exploding one after another, wreckage spinning endlessly into darkness. For hours, neither side gave ground. And then, when it seemed the humans would overwhelm them, Rin gave the order. Dozens of ships rammed straight into the enemy line, detonating themselves in massive bursts of energy. Human vessels cracked, shields fell, and for a heartbeat, the impossible happened. The humans retreated. The resistance had won another battle, though at terrible cost. Half of Rin's fleet was gone, their sacrifice leaving only silence where once thousands had lived. But still, it was a victory. Hope flickered once more. The galaxy cheered again. Though their voices were weaker, their worlds fewer. They told stories of human ships burning, of great victories in the darkness, of courage against overwhelming odds. Yet Earth did not weaken. The dread machine moved closer, its silhouette a looming nightmare. Entire fleets began to gather around. It, as if humanity was preparing for one final blow. The Council could not ignore it. "That is the heart of their power," Solara said, her voice sharp with determination. "We must destroy it no matter what it costs." Rin nodded, though his eyes showed the weight of despair. They all knew the truth. To face the dread machine was to face death itself. But there was no other choice. As the fires of war spread, the stars themselves seemed to weep. Planets that had stood for centuries were reduced to ash. Space stations that had once glowed with trade and laughter now drifted as silent wrecks. Everywhere, the shadow of humanity stretched longer, colder, darker. The name of Earth was no longer just a word. It was dread itself, spoken in whispers, feared by all. Yet even in that darkness, the last council refused to bow. Their fleets gathered, their armies prepared, and their voices rose not in surrender, but in defiance. "If the stars must burn," Rin declared to his people, "then let them burn with our fire, not only with Earth's." And so the stage was set. The battles of fire were not the end, but only the beginning. The humans had answered with overwhelming force, but the Council was not yet dead. They were wounded, bleeding, broken in many ways, but their will remained. Across the galaxy, small sparks of rebellion burned brighter, each one daring to believe. They could strike the dread machine itself. And deep within the shadows, the traitor watched, waiting for the perfect moment to deliver the final betrayal. The war was no longer whispers and shadows. It was fire across the stars, and every soul knew the truth. The end was coming, fast and merciless. And when it came, the galaxy itself would break. The galaxy stood on the edge of silence, as if all creation held its breath. The war had raged across countless stars, burning worlds, breaking fleets, and leaving nothing but ashes in its wake. Yet now, everything came down to one moment, one battle, one chance. The last council gathered what remained of their strength, summoning fleets from shattered territories, calling every warrior, every pilot, every soul who still had the will to fight. Their enemy was no longer scattered human, armadas. It was one thing, one nightmare, one moving fortress that cast its shadow over the stars, the dread machine. Humanity's greatest weapon had entered the heart of the galaxy. Larger than moons, armored beyond imagination, bristling with weapons that could shatter planets, it drifted forward with calm, unstoppable purpose. Behind it followed the remnants of Earth's fleets, not thousands now, but still more than enough to slaughter anything in their path. The galaxy trembled. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Rin stood tall, his face drawn and weary but unbroken. Solara of the Vanar stood beside him, her sharp eyes fixed on the looming terror ahead. "It comes," she whispered, as if speaking too loudly might awaken it further. Rin's voice was steady, though his heart was heavy. "It has always been coming. Now we meet it." Across the comms, the voices of Creel generals, Thaler commanders, and scattered allies echoed. None hid their fear, but all stood ready. They knew this was the final stand. If they failed, there would be no more resistance, no more hope, no more stars free from Earth's shadow. The dread machine did not wait. From its colossal frame, lances of energy streaked into the void, tearing through the first wave of council ships. Entire squadrons vanished in bursts of fire. Shields failed, hulls cracked, and thousands of lives were lost in the opening seconds. Still, the fleet surged forward. Missiles and plasma bolts rained against the machine's armor, burning bright, but leaving only scars upon its massive hull. It was like trying to wound a mountain with arrows. Yet the council did not stop. They had sworn to fight, even if it meant dying. Rin gave the order, and his fleet spread wide, forming a net of fire. Valor strikers darted in close, their sleek ships weaving between the machine's guns. Creel warships unleashed their heaviest barrages, shaking the void with thunder. Thaler drones swarmed like a living storm, swarming across the machines. Hull, clawing, tearing, burning. For a moment, just a moment, the impossible seemed within reach. The great machine shuddered, pieces of armor breaking away, explosions rippling across its surface. Cheers rang out across the comms. But then the machine answered. From hidden ports along its sides, new weapons emerged, weapons the galaxy had never seen before. Vast beams of dark energy cut through fleets like blades through water. Drones unleashed by the machine shredded the Thalor swarms with ruthless precision. Valor ships, once graceful and untouchable, were dragged down by gravity nets, crushed into silence. The Creel's strongest vessels, their pride, their power, were ripped apart one by one. The battle turned to slaughter, the stars burning with the deaths of thousands. And yet, the council fought on. Rin's voice never faltered as he gave orders, his ships pressing forward even as they fell. Solara's forces struck again and again, her courage driving her people to sacrifice everything. Entire fleets hurled themselves at the machine, detonating in desperate suicide runs that tore deeper into its hull. Bit by bit, piece by piece, the machine bled fire. But still it lived. Still it advanced. In the heart of the chaos, a shocking truth was revealed. A signal was intercepted, hidden deep within the machine's transmissions. It was not only a weapon of war, it was a command ship. And within its core, Earth's leaders directed every move, every strike, every breath of destruction. The machine was not only metal and fire. It was the will of humanity itself, condensed into a single monstrous vessel. To destroy it was to strike directly at Earth's heart. Rin knew what had to be done. With grim resolve, he ordered his flagship forward, deeper into the storm of weapons. Around him, his crew protested, but he silenced them with a single word. Enough. Solara's ship joined his side, her people refusing to leave him. Together, they led the final charge. Their ships battered, burning, dying, they forced their way through the machine's defenses. And then, in a moment of impossible courage, they broke through. The machine's core lay before them, a vast glowing sphere of energy pulsing with Earth's power. The comms went silent as Rin spoke his final words. Let the galaxy remember we did not bow, we did not kneel. If we must be ash, then let us be ash that burns the name of Earth into dread forever. With that, his flagship rammed into the core, Solara's ship close behind. The explosion was unlike anything the stars had ever seen. A blinding light consumed the void, tearing through the machine from within. Its colossal frame shuddered, broke, and then shattered. The dread machine was destroyed. Humanity's greatest weapon was gone. But victory came at a terrible price. The explosion took with it most of the Council's remaining fleets. Rin, Solara, and countless others vanished into fire. The galaxy was left in silence, drifting wreckage filling the void where once armies had clashed. Humanity reeled from the loss, their fleets scattered, their leaders struck down. Yet even in defeat, Earth's shadow lingered. They had shown their strength, their wrath, their unstoppable will, and though the machine was gone, the memory of it would never fade. Across the surviving worlds, whispers spread, whispers of Earth, whispers of the machine, whispers of the war that had broken the galaxy. The name of humanity was no longer spoken with arrogance or curiosity. It was spoken with fear, with trembling voices, with the weight of dread. For even in destruction, humanity had won something greater than victory. They had carved their name into the stars, a name of terror, a name no one would forget. The galaxy was broken, scarred beyond repair. Fleets lay in ruins, worlds burned, alliances shattered. But above all, one truth remained. Humanity had risen, and though the dread machine was gone, its legacy lived on. The galaxy would rebuild, but always with the shadow of Earth hanging above it, a shadow that could never be erased. And so, when the story of the war was told, it was told with a single title, not the war of fleets, not the war of councils. It was remembered as the battle that broke the galaxy and made humanity a name of dread.